Hey there, all you beautiful souls. I hope your day has been absolutely fantastic. It's a pleasure to have you back for yet another exciting episode of Naruto, Students of the Snake. Jiraiya and Tsunade were supposed to be the ones to watch over Naruto. What if that responsibility fell to Orochimaru instead? How will this affect both of them, and others? How will it affect Konoha? If you guys enjoyed this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. After watching this video, don't forget to pay a visit to the author of this captivating fanfiction and show them some love. You'll find the link waiting for you down in the description. Before we get into it though, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Once Jiraiya and Tsunade reached the palace of the Emperor of Land of Rice Paddies, they both had only one thought cross their minds. Where is Naruto? Orochimaru could tell this and felt he should just let them. But since Naruto was bound to be watched over by one of the two snakes, they couldn't just go up to him. So he had to let Sango, and maybe Kazekage too, know about this before he told the daimyo anything. After checking a few major rooms, they stumbled upon a shallow pool in one of the yards of the palace and saw two children playing in the shallow end. One was a girl with short black hair that had a bluish tint to it, and the other was a boy that looked exactly like a young Minato with 6 whiskers. No question who that boy could possibly be. Naruto! Tsunade shouted happily before she darted out to hug the boy she thought had been dead for 3 years. However, her path became blocked by an orange and black snake the size of a large boa. And it did not look pleased. Sango, stand down. These two can see him. Orochimaru told the snake. Alright sir, but I shall keep watch over him still. Sango stated. Orochimaru nodded, showing his two teammates they could proceed. Just remember guys, he's young and not used to strangers approaching him with good intentions. So you might want to restrain yourselves a bit for now. Tsunade and Jiraiya tried to keep that in mind while they tepidly approached the pool. The kids obviously saw them and stopped playing to watch the new adults, who could now see the girl was a Hyuga. Hi! Are you two Jisan's friends? Naruto asked with a polite smile. Tsunade couldn't restrain herself any longer and reached out to hug him. She got into the pool and went right up to the young boy and enveloped him in a soft embrace, surprising both kids. Fortunately, neither screamed or anything like that. Tsunade muttered something unintelligible, like she was trying to say several things at once to him. She loosened her hold on him when she felt him squirm, but she didn't let him go just yet. When she looked at his face, she saw he was worried but not downright panicked. It's okay, Naruto. I'm Tsunade, I'm like your grandmother, Naruto gasped. Ah, really? He turned to Orochimaru for confirmation, which he gave, then back to Tsunade. Bachan? Tsunade happily cried at hearing him call her that, and she hugged him tighter and whispered something in his ear. Jiraiya leaned in, perched on the edge of the pool, and smiled warmly. Hey there kid. I'm Jiraiya, and I guess that means I'm like your grandfather then. Eroji-chan? Naruto innocently asked, much to Tsunade's amusement and Jiraiya's chagrin. Even Orochimaru chuckled at that, guessing Tsunade must have told the boy to call him that. And just where have you two been all this time? An irritable girl's voice sighed from the direction of the other side of the room. Everyone looked to see Anko standing by the doorway inside, looking upset with her arms crossed in front of her. It looked like she had just recently shown up to hear this. Anko-chan, something wrong? Orochimaru asked carefully, having a good idea what was on her mind. Yes, there is Jisan. These two have been gone all this time, playing around like you said, and now they think they can just go up to him and act like it's no big deal? What gives? Fortunately, the two visiting Sannin could tell this girl was just being protective of Naruto rather than downright telling them off, so they didn't overreact to her claim. Jiraiya stood up and looked at her gently. We would have helped him out, but the Hokage lied to us and told us he died years ago. Anko's eyebrows arched, but her expression didn't overall change. The old man who helped him out. Why would he do that? That's what I intend to find out. Jiraiya replied. But just so you know, if he didn't, me and Tsunade here would have come back to Konoha to care for him. Are you two married? The young purple-haired girl asked curiously. Both Sannin looked unsure how best to answer her, while the remaining one covered his grin with his hand. Actually, we're just friends and prefer things that way. Tsunade managed to make herself say a bit later. And we're gonna be here for Naruto from now on. I have to take off one more thing first. Jiraiya added. I'll see you guys soon. I don't want to wait anymore to hear what excuse he has for this. He then shoo-shined out of the palace. Wouldn't want to be sensei now, Orochimaru commented. 2 days later, Sarutobi was going through the paperwork at his desk when Jiraiya invited himself into the office. Jiraiya? This certainly is a surprise, not as much as the one I got, the Toad Sannin commented. What do you mean? The old Hokage asked. Oh, I happened to bump into my old teammate not too long ago. I was surprised to see him away from the village and thought it was a good idea to look into it. Imagine my reaction when he told me why he left. Sarutobi was perceptive enough to hear what wasn't actually being said here. I'm sure you've got some questions you want answered. No, I want to play golf. Of course I want answers, Jiraiya responded, almost yelling, being sarcastic in the beginning then completely serious at the end. Let's start with the most obvious one. Why the fuck did you lie to me like that? Sarutobi paused to inhale from his pipe, making Jiraiya suspect he was buying time to phrase his explanation in an innocent way, more likely to cover his own ass. What would you have done if I hadn't? Sarutobi asked him plainly. My duty, and neglect your spy network which has kept Konoha well guarded these past few years? Wouldn't that have endangered Naruto and everyone else here in Konoha? Sarutobi asked. If I had been told the truth, I could have informed Tsunade, who would have come back here and watch over him when I couldn't, so I wouldn't have had to drop my work. And Orochimaru would still have been able to help. So all 3 Sannin could have watched over him rather than just one. What do you have to say to that? Jiraiya countered. Tsunade would have had to focus her time at the hospital, and you know she might have drank a lot in his company, and that wouldn't have been a good idea, Sarutobi stated. Personally, I'm amazed Orochimaru found as much time as he did for the boy, but you and Tsunade would have been more pressed with your jobs. Maybe you're right for me, but Tsunade would have more likely volunteered than taken a real job. And if anything, Naruto would have been a positive influence on her rather than her being a bad one to him. And if a child was raised and taught by multiple Sannin, he would have become a big target by this village's enemies. Naruto was already endangered by being Minato's son, and I needed to keep him out of the spotlight as much as possible, Jiraiya snorted angrily. If that was true, then why did you allow knowledge of him being a Jinchuriki to be known to others? Sarutobi looked curious. Just what did Orochimaru tell you? For that matter, why didn't you bring him here with you? This is between you and me, sensei. And he told me everything, from the ceiling to the council and civilians trying to murder Naruto since literally day one. And here you've been telling me he's been dead all this time. Again, what gives? I told you. I needed to keep him out of our enemy's interest. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes. And yet you let him be in the line of danger here. Sounds like you felt someone was going to be hurt no matter what, and better it be Naruto alone than others with him. That's low, sensei. He sighed and turned around. I need to be scarce for a bit, sensei. Also, I don't think Tsunade going to ever come back here without wanted to destroy something. Sarutobi didn't look like he was going to argue against this. Hope you can understand things better once you think things over some. And I hope you'll still come back at the designated time for your report. Jiraiya said nothing, just left the room. But before he left Konoha, he had one more stop to make, although he would have to be careful with this part. After all, he couldn't exactly give away the source of his info. Jiraiya stopped in front of the Hyuga household and was greeted by the guards. What business do you have here? I'm Jiraiya of the Sannin, and I'd like to speak with the head of the Hyuga clan regarding some info I've acquired. The guards remained silent, but one agreed to his request and let him enter. Wait here. I'll go get them. Jiraiya waited, and a few minutes later an unbranded Hyuga woman entered carrying a young infant. A girl, judging from the pink blanket wrapped around it. Hello? I'm Hitomi Hyuga. Sorry my husband couldn't greet you, but he's busy at the moment. Judging from her shadowy eyes and rough voice, this woman was not well. So busy that someone who looks like they should be in a hospital needs to speak for them? Jiraiya thought. Now Hyuga-san, as you may know, I'm one of the Sannin, and I've got ears listening in many places. One of my sources says that some time ago, about a month, a Hyuga from the main branch was kidnapped by a Kumo Nin and declared dead. Is this true? Hitomi started crying and sat down. The baby in her arms started fussing, so she cooed to it to calm her down. Why, yes, that's correct. That was my daughter Hinata. Orochimaru told me he saved her, but the girl said this family was full of child beaters. She said her mother was nice, but dead. She must have been wrong about that part, but is she on the other? This was the main reason Jiraiya wanted to see the Hyugas while he was in Konoha. Ma'am, that same source told me some rather unpleasant news. They said they saw the body, and before they destroyed it per ninja orders, they saw signs of abuse before the kidnap. Implying that someone here hurt her physically, maybe more than once. Hitomi wanted to throw up at hearing this. That can't be. Tell me, who all mourned for the girl when she was announced dead? Jiraiya asked. We all held a small ceremony for my daughter. Hitomi almost yelled, outraged she would ask something like that. How many actually shed tears? Jiraiya asked. I don't remember. Hitomi answered, recalling many had dry eyes. Maybe even Hayashi did too, but she refused to believe that. I'm sorry if this bothers you, but I've got a reliable story that says this clan has child beaters in it. Jiraiya told her. Hitomi glared, then coughed before she could retort. And just what source is this? Jiraiya stood up and led her into a nearby washroom. He was sure no one would bother using the Byakugan to peek into an occupied room with a toilet in it, but he did activate a silencing jutsu. My source is the one watching over the victim herself, Hitomi gasped. Are you saying? He nodded. Yes, your daughter is still alive. She was saved by my teammate who has been watching her since. He won't bring her back since she says everyone here but her mother was mean to her. So I can't bring her here. She looked ready to cry a waterfall's worth of tears. But if you're up to it, I can take you to her. Problem is I can't promise you can just come back here. Or if you even should, considering you don't seem so fit now. I haven't been so good since my second birth. I had to be kept away for a few weeks, and at one point the doctors thought I already died. Hitomi explained. I can see why a 3-year-old girl would conclude her mother was already dead then. The Toad Sannin thought to himself. But I've only recovered so much. The doctors don't think I have much longer anyway. The Hyuga matriarch confessed. Please sir, let me see my daughter one more time. Take me to her. Never mind my health, alright? Tell whoever you must you're going out of town to see a talented medic to treat you, and pack up any way you want with you. Oh, and bring the infant too. You'll understand if I prefer not leaving her with potential child abusers. Jiraiya told her, to which she agreed. A few minutes later Hayashi and the other Hyuga were informed of her going on medic leave with Jiraiya's assistance. They were against the new heiress going along, but Hitomi argued that she would still be nursing the baby, so this was for the best. Without further argument, and the approval of the Hokage, Jiraiya was on his way back to Land of Rice Paddies with 2 Hyugas, riding Gamabunta to get there quicker. When Jiraiya showed up that night he was greeted by Tsunade and Orochimaru. Gamabunta dispelled after his riders were on the ground. Tsuhime, this woman needs medical care now. She's the Hyuga girl's mother, but Hinata-chan said she was dead. Orochimaru said. Not quite, but I sure feel like it's some days. Hitomi answered wearily. Tsunade did a quick diagnostic jutsu. Looks like someone gave you a slow-acting poison to kill you. When did this start? She didn't wait for an answer before she got started on the anti-venom jutsu best for this. I think after I gave birth to my second daughter Hanabi. Hitomi answered, feeling a sense of calm from the jutsu. Somebody must have wanted you dead but not immediately. Why, I haven't the foggiest. But this should clear things up. Just try not to stay active so soon. Tsunade told her. Is my daughter Hinata here? Can I see her please? Hitomi pleaded. I'll take you to her. Orochimaru told her, leading her inside the palace. A teary reunion between mother and daughter, both thought to cease by the other, followed and was followed by a teary explanation of the physical harm forced onto said daughter by other relatives. Said mother decided not to return to Konoha and would later be considered dead by natural causes in the Hyuga records, with Hanabi suffering SIDS at same time. In time the new hidden village was completed and ready to be inhabited. Orochimaru, who had been declared the ruler of the village, stood on an alcove on a central tower to address the new citizens of the village, both shinobi and civilians mixed together. Welcome everyone to this new shinobi village. I know we may not seem like much now, but we will soon become a respected force in the ninja world. Why? Because we'll have the elements of surprise and mystery better than any other. And because I'm sure this population will band together to help the rest rather than look for reasons to ostracize each other. Almost every head in the crowd nodded. So let us strive to be a grand village rather than a barbaric one, which I'm sure some of you will agree some of the major hidden villages have started becoming. Again some people nodded. Today a new village has been born. From here on out, this village's name will be Otogakure, the Hidden Sound Village. The name was based on a set of cannons positioned at each of the gates around the village that fired off huge chakra-powered sound attacks at intruders. A fifth one was on top of the Kage Tower, and could be fired in any direction if need be. Everyone cheered, and hailed Orochimaru as the Shodaime Otokage. After the first day being in the new village called Oto, the three Sannin gathered together with the kids in their care along with Hinata's mother. Orochimaru started the topic of discussion. Okay, we now have a place to call home and live safely. So now the issue is who lives with who and where. My daughters are staying with me, Hitomi claimed assertively, putting her arms around Hinata and Hanabi to emphasize her point. Thanks to Tsunade's help, she was as healthy as a horse when by now she would have died for real. I don't think anyone was going to contest that. However, I do recommend that if you're going to live here rather than Konoha, that you change your name so we can avoid any problems, Jiraiya told her. Hitomi nodded. Sounds fair. I think we'll go with the name Hibiki, in honor of this new village. Hibiki means sound echo, Orochimaru smiled. I think that's quite an appropriate choice. But won't people see your connection to the Hyugas just by looking at your eyes? I can wear contact lenses to cover that up, and so can my daughters when they're old enough. And maybe we can modify the Jukin enough so that others won't connect us that way either. Sounds good. Now, as for the other kids, I think we should, Tsunade suggested. Me and Oturo will stay with Jisan then, Enko stated, cutting off the slug Sannin before she could say otherwise. Now little girl, Jiraiya started. Enko gave him an angry look. No, old man. I know you and her are Naruto-chan's grandparents, but you two were more interested in books and beer to notice him. Now you come here and want to act like it never happened? No way. My brother is staying with those I know will care for him. Orochimaru smiled at how fierce this child could be in the face of two Sannin. Enko-chan, you're going to be quite a force when you're older. He then cleared his throat to catch her attention. Actually, Enko-chan, what my teammates were going to say is we all reside here in this tower. That way all you kids can be together, and we all can watch over you. No fair splitting you guys up, is it? Or giving you random people to call parents now? Enko's temper deflated. Yes, Jisan. This will also help us keep an eye on those marks you all have now, Orochimaru added. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Hitomi had been more than appalled to hear about that little incident. Jiraiya tried to seal it up but couldn't undo it for reasons that escaped him. It was as if it was only part seal, part something else entirely. Tsunade checked as well, and her medic ninjutsu did nothing to improve it. If anything, her jutsus meant to calm it only aggravated it instead. What about Hinata? Hitomi asked, since her oldest child had the curse mark too. There's enough room for the three of you as well. The carpenters said several people might reside in this tower, so there's enough room here for 24. Orochimaru answered. You really want to stay here? Just like that? Kabuto curiously asked. Hitomi nodded. You heard what Hinata went through. How could I make her go back to that? Or Hanabi either to maybe be their new target? Better I stay here and let them think I'm dead or something, even my husband. He wouldn't be able to hide this secret from the Hyuga Council. Yay! Hinata-chan staying with us. Naruto cutely cheered, making the adults and the mentioned girl grin. Later that night, while everyone was asleep, Jiraiya was doing a quick check on Naruto's seal. Just a precaution to make sure no one had done any tampering with it without Orochimaru's knowledge. It was unlikely, but the Snake Sannin wasn't as good with seals as the Toad Sannin, and he couldn't have watched Naruto 24/7 for 3 years. So Orochimaru let him check it out, but he, Tsunade, and Enko insisted on sticking around and watching, if nothing but to satisfy their own curiosity and protective sides. Jiraiya checked Naruto's sedated body over like a surgeon might. He noticed the curse mark darken and tried to spread in the meantime, so he put a suppressor seal on it for the meantime. Hopefully it would last. But when he took a direct look at the seal for the QB, Jiraiya's vision darkened for a moment. When he could see again, he saw himself in front of a giant set of cage doors standing in shallow water. He noticed a piece of paper with the kanji for seal on it on the cage, and knew exactly where he was. Minato, did you plan this? Or am I here by accident? The pervy sage asked himself. The sound of breathing and groaning made him stop, and the sight of a large red eye slowly opening made him freeze. Who are you? A tired but strong voice asked him. Jiraiya was half tempted to give his trademark introduction, but wisely thought the better of it. I'm just checking up on the boy. I never expected to come across you. The QB shut its eye again and slowly reopened it, but not as much this time. If you're here to hurt the kid, you just made a big mistake. The fox growled, almost protectively. I'm here to help him. The last thing I want to do is hurt him. Kyubi looked at him like it was studying him, and it appeared more alert and awake this time. How do you intend to help him? Since I'm in him, I'd be affected, so I have the right to know. I just wanted to make sure the seal hasn't been tampered with or weakened in any way. Some idiots in Konoha could have easily done that if they did anything to him without truly thinking it through. Jiraiya explained. The Kyubi groaned, or maybe yawned. It was hard to tell here. Nothing like that I've seen. From what I recall, the seal was the only part of him those bastards and bitches left alone. Jiraiya blinked in surprise. From what you recall, I saw everything through his eyes. I can't do anything except heal him though. But only so much, or he might get poisoned from my chakra. Otherwise I'd have gotten rid of that new mark myself. That one's a bit of a nuisance. From what I can tell, it's some sort of false Kekkei Genkai, giving him a unique ability, but it can't be passed down to his own kids. By the way, go easy on the sedatives. They're only making it worse for him. How? Jiraiya asked. I'm no expert like that vixen you're with, but the man who gave the kid that mark said being close to death would trigger a second stage for that mark. I think being heavily sedated for a time might be just as effective for it. Jiraiya thought this over. I'll take your word for it, since that thing is very confusing to me. I've been trying to understand it since the kid and the others got it. I believe it's some sort of secondary chakra source that first awakens in a dangerous situation. Maybe activating an already present Kekkei Genkai will trigger it too, but I'm not sure. Does kind of throw a wrench into my possible offer. The Kyubi mentioned. Possible offer? Jiraiya repeated curiously. I might as well tell you anyway, since the kid's too young to understand. You see, the bijou, when sealed inside a human, can do something to help their host out and prolong their life. Usually, the creation of a Kekkei Genkai, thus the source of them all. The Kyubi explained, so that little tidbit I heard was right. Jiraiya quickly thought. The Kyubi continued explaining. The way it works is based on the host's age and the number of our tails. Take the Ichibi for example, he can offer a single Kekkei Genkai to his host, but it has to be done before the first birthday or else all he gets is extra chakra and quick healing. Since a human that young can't understand the situation, the Ichibi usually chooses the Kekkei Genkai for them, and it's always sand-wielding. So you can give Naruto a Kekkei Genkai to make him a better ninja when he's older? Jiraiya asked, and Kyubi nodded. But Naruto's 3, going on 4. Isn't he too old for you to do that? If I was the Ichibi, or anything weaker than the Sanbai, then yes. But I haven't till he's 9 years old, since I have 9 tails. And what's more, I can give him 9 Kekkei Genkais total, either already existing or completely original. All he has to do is decide which ones he wants, and I can give them to him. Jiraiya gasped. And 9 Kekkei Genkai? How could anyone possibly handle that? He can't use them all at once. And if he were to reproduce when he's using one of them, it would be passed down to his own kits. He'll basically be a Kekkei Genkai factory and need 9 mates when he's old enough. Jiraiya paled. And 9 women? I never thought I'd envy a 3-year-old before. Then he thought of something unperverted. Wait, what do you get out of this? 2 things. 1, that he won't die anytime soon. The host's death hurts the bijou too, and it hurts like hell every time. And 2, when he finally does die, if he accepts the offer, then I don't die with him, but get to return home. Otherwise, our lives become permanently linked. Haven't you ever wondered why everyone says when a Jinchuriki dies the bijou does too? But all 9 of us are still alive when there have been Jinchuriki in the past? Jiraiya went over all this newly gathered info quietly. When he opened his eyes, he found himself back outside the seal in the room with the others, laying on his back with everyone but Naruto gathered above him. How long was I out? A few minutes. Did something happen? Tsunade answered. Jiraiya sat up and popped his back. Yeah, I ended up talking to the fox somehow, and heard something rather interesting. Like what? Anko asked. Well, Jiraiya started. Crap, how can I explain this to a kid? After thinking of the best way to phrase it, he answered her. Let's just say Naruto here, when older, is going to be very strong and needs several girlfriends. Anko smiled, but Tsunade scowled. You better not be planning on making him a pervert. Anko-chan, why don't you leave the room for a bit so the grown-ups can talk about this? Orochimaru suggested. The purple-haired girl got the hint and left the room, but hung outside the door to eavesdrop. I know you're still there, Anko-chan. Thus she sighed in defeat and walked away. Now what's this about several girlfriends? Tsunade asked hostily. with the beginning signs of fire in her eyes. I know this is hard for you to believe, Hime, but the QB told me that when Naruto here turns 9 he can create 9 Kekkei Genkai for him to have, and he can pass one down to each of his children. So 9 wives would help him out, unless you'd rather one girl have 9 children. Jiraiya explained. Tsunade blanched, while Orochimaru grinned. He can create his own Kekkei Genkai? Jiraiya nodded. Or he can assume one that already exists or went extinct. He can only use one at a time though, and each kid of his can only inherit one. I'm not sure what the case would be if the mother has one too though. Orochimaru's grin widened. This is perfect. I know we already brought in some Kekkei Genkais, but an opportunity like this is like a godsend. Think about it, we can either help out a thinning bloodline or make one that none of our enemies have ever heard of. Hell, we may even be able to improve already existing ones. Calm down team, none of this can happen until he's 9. Jiraiya pointed out. I know. So we've got 6 years to help Naruto come up with 9 abilities. Oh, the possibilities. I think we just got a great trump card against Konoha. Orochimaru claimed. Author's note. I know I'm overpowering Naruto too much, as many fics tend to do, but I decided to try out a harem FIC and I wanted a reason less cliche than the CRA. I've already got a few good ideas for some bloodlines and most of the girls, but I'm not finished for both lists. I'll keep the bloodlines a mystery, but here are the girls already selected. Hinata, Isaribi, Kin, Sasami, Femhaku, and Hanabi? Tayuya, Temari, and Shizune are good too if readers want, but Enko and Kurenai won't be options. I've already got plans for them. Morning came and the 3 Sannin were the first to wake up. This was rather early for Tsunade, but she didn't have a hangover this time. Orochimaru, who was used to getting up early to check on the kids right away, did just that while his teammates still had to rub the sleep out of their eyes. Oddly, before he got to any of their rooms to see if they were up yet, he ran into Hitomi, who looked like she was waiting for him. Good morning, Sanin-sama. Would it be alright if I had a word with you before the children get up? Sure, and call me Orochimaru please. The pale Sannin told her as he led her to an empty room that he was planning on making a kitchen for the residents. So what's on your mind, Hitomi-san? The pale-eyed woman seemed hesitant to answer, but made no effort not to. Orochimaru-sama, remember how Tsunade-sama said my problems were because of someone poisoning me and not related to childbirth complications? He nodded. I've been thinking it over and, even though it disgusts me, I think I know why someone would do that. Orochimaru could easily sense how troubling this was for her. Would you like some tea or something? You look like you need something for your nerves. That would be nice, thank you. She answered quietly. Fortunately, the room had enough already in it to boil water, so Orochimaru was able to actually make the drink. He didn't say a word more until it was done, and he handed her a steaming cup, keeping one for himself in case she didn't feel right drinking alone. After taking a long sip, Hitomi started telling what she knew and suspected. It all started before Hanabi was born, to be honest. But I should probably start there. You see, when I had problems after she was born, I thought it was normal afterbirth complications, just more exhausting than what I went through with Hinata. But ever since Tsunade-sama told me someone had poisoned me, I've been thinking it over and I can only come to one conclusion. I've been wondering about that too, but go on, Hitomi sighed. The way I see it, only someone from the Hyuga main branch would have had the opportunity. Even my own husband could be a suspect, although I don't want to believe that. As for motive, that requires me to tell you something rather unpleasant I discovered a week before Hanabi was born, something that may have larger ramifications than I already suspect. She could tell the snake Sannin was still paying attention here, so she decided not to beat around the bush anymore. One day that week, I was supposed to get a checkup to ensure my baby was doing well, and I had to wait for the doctor to show up. I got curious, and used my Byakugan to see how far away they were so I'd know how long to wait. But my eyes saw something much more interesting. I saw numerous connected paper bombs inside the walls of the building and even the foundation. And the connections led to outside, so I checked the full scope of my visual limits, and saw there was a whole network of paper bombs throughout the entire village. Orochimaru somehow paled. Paper bombs throughout the village? Hitomi nodded. Yeah, I was immediately worried. Someone could destroy the entire place with just a kunai or something if they wanted to. I was going to alert someone, but before I did I thought of something. The vast majority of those bombs were built inside buildings, meaning they were put there when the village was being built or reconstructed, and that was a long time ago. There is no possible way I was the first Hyuga to actually catch a glimpse of this setup. Even if I didn't make it a point to use my Byakugan regularly off the compound, others would, and someone would have had to spot something. Orochimaru frowned and nodded. Meaning a genjutsu was involved that stopped working, or they're the ones who made this trap. Hitomi nodded with him. Or at least they know about it, and plan to use it to their advantage somehow. How do you envision them doing something like that? Well, I have heard talk from the Hyuga elders about how they feel the Hyuga should run the village. Hitomi started. Orochimaru scoffed. Sounds like a typical Uchiha attitude. Oh, pardon, it's okay. Anyway, I always thought it was just banter. But now, I suspect they may someday try it, and if they fail, they trigger the network to take the whole village down with them. I brought this up with Hokage-sama, and he admitted this was a serious issue and would get right on it. I kept silent about it, and saw Anbu poking around the city, so I'm sure it's being handled. I think someone in the main branch must have caught on to what I discovered, because I went into labor earlier than expected, and that would have been the perfect chance to get rid of me. Orochimaru nodded. Makes sense. If you had died, they could have said it was from childbirth and not murder. And I'm willing they did something that triggered labor so they could get a second heiress before losing you. One thing I don't get is how they could have known you knew anything if you only spoke, too. His eyes widened at this new thought, and he dropped his teacup. As it shattered on the floor, he stood up in outrage. That son of a bitch! What's wrong, Orochimaru-sama? Hitomi quickly asked, afraid she had upset him somehow. Hitomi-san, the way I see it, there's only one way for anyone from the Hyuga to know you found out anything. And that's for the one person you told to have told them. Orochimaru explained with a grim expression. Hitomi gasped. You mean Hokage-sama? Orochimaru nodded. How else? And even worse, that means he's onto the bomb trap as well. If he wasn't, he wouldn't say a word to the Hyuga and simply have Anbu remove them without anyone knowing. If he told anyone, it could only be because he was part of the setup. Maybe the whole thing was his idea and he's using some of the Hyuga clan to keep an eye on the network. And I'm willing to bet those Anbu you saw were just making sure the whole thing was still operable. Hitomi placed her tea down. Do you really think the Hokage would do such a thing? The Sannin slowly and sadly nodded. There are things about the man I don't want to believe either, but I've seen too much to deny it. And now I'm suspecting there are more secrets of his we could benefit from knowing, if only you could find evidence of them. Hitomi casually offered. Orochimaru smiled in his trademark manner, already coming up with an idea. Later that same day, 3 toads were inside Sarutobi's office while the old Hokage was at a council meeting. One of them went in first and managed to hotwire the one security camera into playing a continuous loop of nothing happening. Since the Hokage Tower was one of the most secure places in Konoha with ninja, traps, and seals everywhere, cameras were little more than a peace of mind last resort that few paid much attention to. Once the toad was sure he succeeded in tricking the camera and anyone who may check the footage later, all 3 went to the Hokage safe. The safe was designed to contain anything that was for the Hokage's eyes only, and anything they left for their successor. It's a good thing the old man told Jiraiya the combination, a red toad mentioned as he turned the dial. Yeah, old man must have never suspected Jiraiya of wanting to take a close personal look at anything without breasts. A yellow toad added. He was partially right, because Sarutobi told Jiraiya the combination to the safe to ensure he could secure whatever was inside and add to it should he himself be someday unable to. The safe opened and there was no alert, since only the Hokage was likely to open it anyway. The 3 toads grabbed as much as they could, locked the door, and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Back in Oto, the 3 Sannin patiently waited while Hitomi was watching over the children elsewhere in the tower. When the 3 toads returned to them, they were both eager and apprehensive about what they may find. Either way, they wanted to get through it all quickly so they can put everything back and never be caught. Unlikely, yes, but not impossible for the Sannin. Besides, all they were really looking for was anything that might pose a threat to Naruto later. The first thing to catch their eyes was a set of documents in a folder with IWA written on it. Considering the relations Konoha had with the Rock Village, they couldn't help but wonder what was inside. What they found was the last thing they'd ever expect to see. The official story about IWA was that during the last war Minato used his Hiraishin and Rasengan, among other impressive jutsus, to decimate a large number of rock nin to save Konoha and thus earn Iwa's animosity for generations to come. If IWA ever knew he had a living relative, especially a defenseless one like Naruto, they'd do absolutely anything to kill them come hell or high water. Sarutobi had made sure each one of the Sannin knew this, even before the boy was born. Apparently that had been another lie to the Sannin. According to the documents in the file, IWA was actually grateful to the Yondaime rather than spiteful. The shinobi he killed were about to try their own complete and total takeover of IWA, and Minato happened to be in the right place at the right time to get rid of them all. The end result was the Namikaze name being praised in IWA, and them wanting to be allies with the Yondaime and his family. If anything, they'd give Naruto their own forbidden scroll before trying to kill him. Sensei lied to us about IWA? Tsunade managed to make herself ask. Why the hell would he do that? I don't know, but I plan on going to visit the Kazekage and confirming this detail right away. Jiraiya told them. If it's true, then we'll have a good ally for this village. Orochimaru nodded. Agreed. What was that old fool thinking by misleading us that way? What was he afraid of? Look at this one. Tsunade said as she held up another folder labeled Suna. This one has messages from the current Hokage to the current Kazekage in regards to their Jinchuriki. Suna has a Jinchuriki? Orochimaru asked. Jiraiya nodded. Yep, the Ichibi from what I've gathered. And he's about Naruto's age if I remember correctly. Well, get this. Tsunade started as she held out one of the papers she'd been looking over. Sarutobi-sensei said to the Kazekage, and I quote, "So you've got the Ichibi contained? Big deal. I've got the Kyuubi under my control, and when he's older he'll do whatever I tell him because he'll see me as one of the few worth listening to hear. You'd have to put your son through several kinds of physical and emotional hell before you pose any kind of threat to my village's grandeur." End quote. Orochimaru wanted to puke. So it's not enough he tried to sabotage Naruto's chances for a good future, but he had to try and do the same for a kid in another village? Tsunade pulled out another page rather than answer. And it says here from the Kazekage that he's calling the old man's bluff and trying to make his Jinchuriki, his own son nonetheless, into a perfect killing machine. If you don't mind, I'd like to go there and see what I can do about it. What do you hope to accomplish? Orochimaru asked. Well, I'd like to see just what the Kazekage is doing to his son, and if possible persuade him to stop. There's no reason for him to be so malicious just because Sarutobi-sensei egged him on. The medic Nin explained, then swallowed hard. Also, if possible, I'd like to bring Naruto along, since I'm sure he can relate to the poor boy better than anyone else could. Take Naruto with you? Orochimaru asked in disbelief. The sad thing was that he understood her reasoning. If the Suna Jinchuriki was suffering, then Naruto would be the perfect person to lift his spirits, and maybe undo any damage. But at the same time, the idea of Naruto going somewhere without him wasn't a good one to him considering the past 3 years. I think that might be a good idea, Orochimaru, Jiraiya added. The only reason they were really seeking his approval wasn't because he was the chosen ruler of the city, but because they were aware he had more say over Naruto's well-being than they did, irregardless of their godparent status they never used. Alright, but his guardian Sango is going with him. I'm sure Anko-chan will want to as well though, so how do you feel about that? The snake Sannin asked. Personally, I'd rather not. I'm good enough to protect him on my own, and she'd just get in the way. The slug Sannin answered. Orochimaru chuckled. Try telling her that, I dare you. With the help of some clones, the documents were quickly copied, and the Toads were very fortunate to get the forgeries inside the vault before Sarutobi returned to his office. The authentic ones would stay in Odo should they be needed later, and no one in Konoha would be the wiser unless Sarutobi took a good look at his own secret collection. The next day, Jiraiya told everyone in the tower he needed to check out something in a village up north. Tsunade said she had to do the same in a village down south. Everyone wished them luck, but once she mentioned she'd be bringing Naruto with her, Anko and Hinata acted up. Hinata just cried because she regarded the boy as her best friend, and Anko didn't really trust Naruto to be with any adults besides Orochimaru too much. In the end, when Tsunade did leave Odo, she brought along 2 kids and a snake, hoping she wouldn't come back with less. For anyone that's curious, all 9 Kekkei Genkai have already been selected. Only 8 girls have been confirmed now, so there's still 1 position available. At this time, Temari is the most likely candidate. After a week of traveling, Tsunade had reached Suna, bringing Naruto and Anko with her, along with their 2 guardian snakes, which were currently small enough to hide in their pockets, and were doing just that. Part of it was to get out of the heat of the desert, and the other part was to make their trio a little less threatening. Not that an old woman with 2 kids looked threatening already, but they weren't natives in a hostile land, and there was no reason for them to stand out so much. Standing at the gates into the desert city were 2 armed guards, posturing to be on alert rather than sitting in a booth like Konoha guards. They did have a tarp over them to provide some shade, but that was the only similarity. Halt! Tsunade stopped and stood confidently but with no hint of hostility. My name is Tsunade Senju and I'd like to discuss business with the Kazekage regarding Konoha. The guards recognized her name, as did many active shinobi in the elemental nations. We haven't been informed of any visitors. I'm not here on any official business. More of a I've got something he'll want to hear sort of visit, Tsunade told them. The two guards huddled and whispered. Should we let her in? What would Kazekage-sama do? She may be a Sannin, but we have home field advantage and the numbers advantage if she tries anything. Besides, if she was going to do something, wouldn't she have brought something more helpful than two kids? The two guards thought it over a bit more silently before returning their attention to their visitor. One of us will escort your party to the Kage Tower. Do not try anything foolish, Tsunade nodded. Lead the way. And please tell me you've got a casino here. What's a desert without casinos? And some ice cream too? It is too freaking hot, Anko added, wiping sweat off her forehead. I don't think you'll be disappointed, one guard answered, trying to sound friendly. Everyone was quickly led to the Kazekage's tower, but only Tsunade went inside. There was a park within sight of the tower with some kids playing and a shaved ice kiosk nearby, so she told them to go play while she had a meeting they would be bored attending. Anko bought some shaved ice for the both of them with some money Tsunade gave them. Then the two stood in the shade of a building watching some kids kick a ball around. Anko quickly noticed one of the kids was sitting on a swing instead. Not using it, just sitting there and watching the others poly with a forlorn look. Wondering what was wrong, she grabbed Naruto's wrist and walked over to check on the boy. A closer look showed this boy was about Naruto's age, maybe a year older at most. He had red messy hair and dark rings around his brown eyes, like a raccoon. His clothes looked like earth-tone rags and his skin wasn't really tan but a healthy color for one outside a lot. His face, however, showed a lot of fear and unhappiness once he looked at the approaching new kids. Poor boy. He must be an orphan, Anko thought sadly. But she then showed a friendly grin and sat on the swing next to him. Hi, I'm Naruto, and this is my Neichan Anko. Who are you? The redhead blinked in surprise several times before answering. Gara Sabaku. Nice to meet you, Gara. Neichan, give me a push, Naruto said while trying to get his own swing to start moving. Anko got up and pushed Naruto, stopping once he got enough momentum. Want one too, Gara? Gara looked at Naruto and Anko before nodding. She gave him a few gentle pushes and soon he was rocking back and forth like a pendulum. It looked a lot to her like he was almost afraid to enjoy himself, since he wasn't really smiling. The ends of his lips did curl up, but it looked like he was trying to mask any pleasure for some reason. Hey, get away from there! Some boys called out. Anko turned to see all the kids who had been playing were now watching her and Naruto with Gara, and what surprised her more was that they looked like they had seen a ghost. Something wrong? You're actually playing with him? One of the girls asked, as if the very idea was frighteningly unthinkable. Yes, so what's got you all so worked up? Anko asked. Naruto carefully watched while Gara looked like he wanted to vanish. You shouldn't go near him. He's a monster, another girl told them. Anko frowned, remembering all the times she heard people in Konoha say such things about Naruto and her. Better watch what you say, she warned, balling her fists, while her guardian snake Kogayaka popped her head out to see if anything was wrong. I have no patience for people who talk like that, but everyone says he's a killing beast, a boy declared, sounded more concerned than hostile. Anko smirked. People say the same about my Otuto all the time. So why would being near Gara bother me? Kogayaka ducked back into the pocket, feeling Anko could handle this herself for now at least. A few kids frowned and gave Naruto dirty looks too. Fine. If you want to die, be our guest. With that, they all went back to their game and pretended this talk never happened. Anko sat down on her swing but didn't move, just looked at the two young boys next to her. Everything okay? You did great, Nei-chan, Naruto enthusiastically claimed. Why did you stick up for me? Gara asked. People back in our first home said the same things about Naruto and I didn't like it. No way I was gonna let them trash talk another like that. Gara looked shocked, but lightly smiled again. Thanks, he said very quietly. For once the sand around him and the voice in his head weren't agitated. Why do they call you a monster too? Naruto asked. Gara looked down. I don't know. Back home everyone did that to me too. It gets rough, I know. But at least your family is there to make it all better, right? Gaara slowly shook his head. Nope. My father and siblings barely even talk to me. Yashimaruji-san does, but only at night when I can't sleep, Anko gasped and got off her swing. You poor boy. She held him in a hug and immediately felt his body tensen and some sand start to rise around her feet. Afraid she scared him, she let go. It's okay, I wasn't going to hurt you. What was that? Gaara asked. It's a hug. It's a sign of friendship. Naruto told the redhead. Friendship? Gaara repeated, as if testing the word. Naruto nodded. Yeah. We'll be your friends. We've been called monsters too, so why not? Gaara smiled. What's this weird feeling I have? It's like I feel safe. Even more than with my sand. Naruto got off the swing and noticed the kids left their ball behind. Come on, let's play a little. He kicked it to Anko, who kicked it to Gaara. His foot caught the ball, and he carefully kicked it towards Naruto, who had to run to catch it. In no time at all, a three-man game of soccer was going on, with 3 smiling kids. Tsunade was led into the office of the Yondaime Kazekage, and told to take a seat on a mat in the center of the room. Once inside, she noticed the overall look was similar to the Hokage's office last time she saw it, but this one had several seals on the walls. She didn't recognize any, but she couldn't see any that looked potentially dangerous to her. Still, her guard wasn't coming down if this Kage made a move. So, one of the legendary Sannin wishes to discuss something with me? Well, I'm curious if nothing else. The Kazekage started. Kazekage-sama, before I bring up the topic I wish to discuss, I would like to know how you view your relation with Konoha. Tsunade started. Since the Kazekage wore a cloak over his face, much like Kakashi did with his own mask, it was difficult to read any expression he had. Well, we've got a peace treaty between us, but I'm still wary of anything hostile that might ensue if it's a trick to lower our guards. Do you have reason to believe Konoha or any of its leaders have ill intentions towards you? Kazekage paused, trying to think of the best way to answer that. How is that any of your concern? You're not affiliated with my village, and from what I've heard, you personally haven't been inside your own in years. So why would you care about how the 2 villages interact? Shrewd man. Like any good Kage, he knows not to give away too much info before getting more than he can offer. Question is, how to get him to open up with revealing too much on my own end. Tsunade thought silently. After a moment, she spoke up again. To be frank, Kazekage-sama, I don't. You're right. I'm not connected to Suna, and my bond with Konoha is strained to non-existent. However, I've come across something that leads me to believe you and the Sandaime Hokage are at each other's throats, and the reason is inconsequential. Kazekage looked surprised to hear such a thing. Inconsequential? Tsunade narrowed her eyes, but in a non-threatening way. Kazekage-sama, I know you have a Jinchuriki within this village, and the Hokage has told you how inferior he will be compared to the one Konoha has. How would you feel if I told you that was a bluff? A bluff? As in Konoha doesn't have a Jinchuriki. Kazekage sat there looking at her and occasionally glancing at the seals in the walls. These seals were basically lie detectors and constantly read the heart rate and chakra flow of anyone in the room, sans the Kazekage himself. If they detected any dishonesty, they would release several tranquilizer-coated senbon, and some knockout gases the Kazekage had developed some tolerance to. They weren't designed to kill, since the interrogators wouldn't get the truth from a corpse. Since not a single one of them was reacting, he could only conclude the slug Sannin was being honest. The Kazekage took a moment to let this sink in. So Konoha does not possess a Jinchuriki? Tsunade nodded, and he sighed. That's a relief. I know several villages have 1 or 2, but so far Konoha has been the only one to actually use it in a threatening way against us. If they can't flaunt one, then I don't have to be as harsh to my own. I don't recommend going easy on him, or any of your shinobi, but I don't believe you should be inhumane to him either. After all, Jinchurikis are only the prison, not the prisoner, and there's not a single one that chose that fate. Tsunade stated. Kazekage stood up slowly, clasped his hands behind his back and turned so his left side faced the window, letting him look outside but still able to keep an eye inside his office if need be. To tell the truth, I already knew that, but because of Konoha's threat, I tried convincing myself that the best thing for us all was to do the opposite. I didn't like seeing my own son be so alone and keep my other 2 children away from him. His uncle, my brother-in-law, helps him from time to time more than me, but I sense he has at least some hostility towards the boy. I was sure all that animosity was good for us all, even if bad for Gaara, and maybe years from now, I would have stopped caring completely if this meeting never happened. So what do you plan to do now? Tsunade asked. Kazekage sighed. I'm not sure. With the main threat gone, maybe I should try to be a father more than a Kage for a bit. And definitely get his siblings to be around him more. Maybe he won't become the perfect weapon, but at least he won't become a bigger threat to us than anything Konoha could use. Tsunade nodded, looking pleased. Also, I've heard one of your teammates is a seal expert, am I right? She nodded again. Would it be too much trouble for him to come by and have a look at Gaara's seal? Sometimes the demon in him gives him trouble, making me question its strength. I can arrange that. Which demon is it, by the way? The Ichibi, weakest of the Bija. A big reason why the Hokage's threat unnerved me so much, and why I was so eager to be as brutal as possible in his training. But why are you telling me all this? I didn't like the idea of you destroying your own son's well-being just because some old man wanted to sound big. And the old man himself is in hot water with me and my teammates, so all the more reason. Tsunade explained. I won't ask for more. Also, am I correct in assuming it would be best if I didn't let a word of this meeting out to Konoha? Kazekage asked. Yes. That would be best. Very well. Later that night, Tsunade and the Toe kids checked into a hotel so they wouldn't have to wander the desert at night. At the Kazekage's house, he surprised all three of his kids by calling them into the living room together. Temari and Kankuro were surprised Gaara was included, since he was always left out of these sorts of things. When they got there, he was sitting comfortably on a cushioned chair, so Temari and Kankuro stood in front like a pair of trained soldiers. Gaara tried to imitate them but lacked the resolve to be as stable. Kids, I've decided to try something new from now on that may benefit you all. He started. From now on, I'm going to be more involved in your training and your lives outside training too, like I probably should have done from the beginning. All three kids looked more surprised than one might expect of them. What do you mean, Ota-sama? Temari asked. I mean, I'm going to try and be more of a parent from now on, and not just a commander. Kazekage answered. Why? Not that I mind, but why the sudden change of heart? Kankuro asked. Kazekage smiled, and since he wasn't masking his face, everyone could see it. Because now I'm not afraid not to. He then glanced over at Gaara. You okay, son? The redhead nodded. Yes, Ota-sama. I'm well, better than ever thanks to my new friends. You made friends? Kazekage asked as Temari and Kankuro gave him curious glances. Gaara nodded. Yes. Their names are Naruto and Anko. They told me they'd visit as much as possible since they don't live here. And write once I know how to write and read. Interesting. I think I'd like to see them too. Temari added, thinking they had to be quite brave and or kind to want to associate with Gaara. Kazekage smiled, feeling quite paternal, something he hadn't felt in years. That's good, son. Very good. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.